Coming up, we have the next recap episode with a much smaller group today. We have just watched Captain Marvel and Iron Man. A full discussion is up ahead. This is the Sacred Rewatch. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sacred Rewatch, brought to you by Effortless Expeditions, a Disney-centered travel agency. Here to help you plan your next Disney vacation. Contact us today for a free, no-obligation quote. Wherever the destination is, they make the experience truly effortless. I'm your host, Ethan Bronson, and before I continue on with our normal content, just a couple things to address. I don't love asking our lovely viewers to do this, but as you've heard before, subscribing to your preferred YouTube channels do help immensely. So if you like our content at all, even if you dislike it, please subscribe. We would love if you would do that just by pressing the button on the screen. If you don't like Marvel content as much, I'm happy to announce that on May 2nd, we're coming out with a brand new podcast. It's going to be called the E-Ticket Talk. It's a Disney Park specific podcast. We won't be breaking down news like a lot of other podcasts do or other YouTube channels. It's just more of a casual conversation about the parks and other experiences around the world. With this new show, Effortless Expeditions, will be changing its YouTube and Instagram name to Effortless Entertainment. You may even start to see some other Disney-related content pop up on your feed, and we're also now on X and TikTok. All right, no more yapping from me. Time to introduce our small group today, starting with Sophia.
Hello.
Andreas.
What's up, guys?
Austin.
What's going on? I'm ready to get into this Marvel review.
And coincidentally enough, I don't know why I keep doing this, Brody, again.
Hello.
How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Doing good, Brom.
Fantastic.
You guys had a good Easter, dealing with the Easter hangover?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That was a great video we made.
Indeed. A lot of ouzo was drank.
Yeah, no, I loved your guys's. I went and I watched your Easter egg episode yesterday. That was how I ended my Easter. It was fun.
Yeah, no, it was a good conversation. I actually think, too, with today's smaller group, some of these smaller group discussions are going to be good just to kind of help facilitate conversation.
Yeah.
So we've watched Captain Marvel and Iron Man. We'll start in chronological order. Captain Marvel taking place roughly 50 years after Captain America, the first Avenger. Before I get into my thoughts, we're going to be introducing Sophia's sophisticated summary. So she's going to give us a little brief rundown on what happened in the movie for you guys that are keeping up with this rewatch with us. So Sophia, go ahead.
All right. So I will admit I had a little help from my boyfriend, ChatGPT. But
you watched the movie.
Of course I watched the No, my summary. Of course I watched the movie. I could not keep up with the summary on the fly without a little help. So anyway, Captain Marvel, released in 2019, follows Carol Danvers, a former U.S. Air Force pilot who becomes one of the universe's most powerful heroes. After crashing during a test flight, she is transformed and taken in by an alien race called the Kree, becoming a soldier named Vers. She eventually crash lands on Earth in the 1990s. While
It's Veers. It's Veers. Did you watch the movie? It's Veers. It's
No, this
Veers.
is different.
Keep
Okay,
going,
wait.
Sophia.
Is it Veers or Vers?
It's
It's
Veers.
Veers. They only said it every 5 seconds in the movie.
Okay, guys.
I don't know if you watched it. Uh-oh.
It is
Oh,
so.
what's going on here?
It is so with just one E though, because
Do you
it's
want
the end
to
of
say my notes?
Danvers.
All
Let's
right,
do my
Sophia,
notes.
let's continue the summary.
Fears. Anyway, while on a mission, I almost un PG-13 this. Sorry. She eventually crash lands on Earth in the 1990s while on a mission, and begins to uncover memories of her past life with the help of Nick Fury, or just Fury because he prefers that. Because I know that because I watched the movie.
Do you remember his
she
full
learns-
name?
What?
Do you remember his full name? Nicholas Joseph Fury? Okay. All right.
No, I don't. Okay. She learns the truth about her identity, her human origins, and the deceptive nature of the Kree. Ultimately, she embraces her powers and becomes Captain Marvel, vowing to help those in need across the galaxy.
Awesome. Well, that was Sophia's sophisticated summary, along with her friend's help. I'm going to start us off with the score. We're not going to do a grand reveal this time. We may do that again in a future episode, just because I kind of have a feeling of how this movie is going to be received. So I gave it an 11 out of 25.
Me too.
Just for a reference.
Me too.
Oh, awesome. Just for reference, I gave Captain America a 17. I'm kind of making it a point to be not harsh but strict on my scoring because I don't want to just give everything a perfect score. But I'll just give you a little breakdown. I gave story a 2.5 out of 5. So I'll take you back to when I watched this in theaters in 2019. I remember watching this and being very confused. And I feel like now that I've seen some other Marvel content, like The Marvels, which is Captain Marvel's sequel, and Secret Invasion, I have a little bit more of an appreciation for this movie. Just because I feel like when this dropped at the time, it was very confusing because I think it's doing a lot of like world building without like doing much story like justice. So I can appreciate for like what it's doing because I think there's a lot of Easter eggs in this movie that kind of hit towards other Marvel movies. Maybe you guys can attest to that too. I would like to keep it just to a Captain Marvel discussion. I don't want to get too much into other projects it relates to specifically. But yeah, I have a little bit more of an appreciation for the story element of this movie. Characters, I actually gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I think Captain Marvel's like very straight-faced motive actually works. I think she's kind of the Superman of this universe, not very heroic, I would say. Whether you guys deem that as a good thing or a bad thing, I think that's kind of an opinionated thing. I think Coulson and Fury in this movie is fantastic. I think they had great talking points. And especially, I think my favorite character, kind of the same thing with Captain America. I kind of like that serious jokes. I can't remember that one guy's name, but he's part of the team. He kind of had a couple of straight-faced jokes. I can't remember the character's name. Sorry, this is not really helping the conversation. But yeah, I thought the characters were one of the bright spots in the movie. Sound and score, I was pretty brutal about this. I did not really care for the score of this movie. I thought it was trying to be unique, but it was just kind of sounded bland. Iconic moments, I also gave this a 1 out of 5. I feel like every single time I watch this movie, I kind of forget some of the scenes, and it's just kind of forgettable. Rewatchability, though, I gave it a 3. I think maybe for that very reason that every single time I watch it, I don't really remember, so I kind of enjoy watching it again because it's like the first time me watching it. So I gave it 11 out of 25. That's kind of why. Some notes I had. I don't know if you guys caught this, but the song Crazy on You was played. It was playing while they were doing like the go-kart racing for like half a second. If you guys haven't seen the movie, it plays in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I'm not going to explain where in the movie. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but I just thought that was a cool nod. Here's a little fun fact, which I... Say it again?
That was my one talking point. It was Crazy on You. I thought I was like, no one else will catch that.
And then one other fact I had about this movie, which I actually knew going in, the actor, Gemma Chan, she's in this movie, but she's like a blue alien. But she's actually one of the few actors that has played multiple roles in the MCU. She ends up being Cersei in the Eternals, which we'll watch much, much later from now. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. It kind of scored how I thought it was going to. I wasn't really looking forward to this movie. But I think it scored actually a little bit better than I thought it would. But love to hear your guys' thoughts, and if you guys don't have any thoughts on my thoughts, you guys can go ahead.
I kind of just, I mean, the scoring's kind of the same. I had a 12. The only thing I really scored high was the arcs, the character arcs. There's a lot. I really like Agent Coulson. We see a little more of him in Iron Man, which kind of makes me sad that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not canon, because that's him. Isn't that like all it is basically Agent Coulson? Mm-hmm. So that made me sad. But I mean, there was like a lot of like story building in this, like the Flurkin with the Tesseract, and I didn't really know where the Tesseract went after Captain America, so that was pretty interesting. I just don't. There's a lot of things that probably get deeper, like the Supreme Intelligence. I don't know if that comes up later, or like why do they want this light speed engine? They already jump from like galaxy to galaxy every 5 seconds. Like, why do they need this? So, but yeah, the scrolls are pretty cool. I didn't know Ronan was Kree. That was interesting. I know he comes up later, and. Yeah, I mean, the Kree are not really nice people. That's all I kind of came out with this.
Wait, so was it established that Ronan is Kree, and how? I know that he like had an allegiance with the Kree, but I didn't know if he was Kree himself.
From my understanding, he is Kree. I think that's just kind of assumed. I don't know if they directly said that. I don't know if anybody else caught a line specifically, but I just was under the assumption it was just assumed.
I mean, he's blue, so that kind of, I don't
know. Whoa.
Racist.
I think that he might have said, like, for the good of all Kree at one point. That might have.
Whenever he shows up on that hologram the first time, he said something about it.
Yeah. Interesting.
I have a question for you, Austin. So, Coulson. Actually, maybe it's more of a question for everybody, but did anybody notice that there was de-aging? Because obviously, Austin, you'll see later that the projects that were filmed earlier are the actors' real faces. They had to de-age Coulson and Fury a little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. They did a good job then.
I don't know if it seemed like it was more makeup than it was CGI. I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on it, but I actually thought it was pretty good.
Austin, you couldn't tell that Fury was CGI?
I could tell like there's something going on with him. I couldn't pinpoint what it was. I mean, obviously his face looked a little different not having an eye patch, but that's what I just assumed it was.
It was just him and Coulson, right?
I believe so.
I didn't know Coulson was, but I knew Fury was.
I think
I could tell more with Coulson than I could with Fury, and I think that Fury having an eye patch. I think that Fury having an eye patch really played to Marvel's benefit in this de-aging thing because, like, we really only ever seen half of his face anyway. So de-aging him, I'm sure, was probably a little bit easier than it was for Coulson, which I thought Coulson was a little bit more noticeable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Speaking on the eye patch, was this anybody's first time watching Captain Marvel?
It was mine.
Yeah.
Okay, so were you surprised about him losing his eye the way he did?
Yes, but I think it was really well done. Like, I think it was kind of funny and comical. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I think it was well done. And I
think that was the character great.
General reaction when it came out at the time. I mean, I don't think really anybody has complaints about it. Anybody else want to go around with their score?
I'll go.
Go for it.
I give it the same score as you, Ethan. I give it an 11 out of 25. For me, the story and the stakes. So Austin last episode kind of picked out a lot of plot holes, and I thought now, like, I kind of got a little bit of an eye for that. Like, a couple of things that bothered me. I was like, okay, so the Tesseract can burn a hole through a, like, World War II plane, but it can be carried in a lunchbox. So, like, stuff like that. Okay, what's going on? What else did I find? I just found that there was, like, a couple holes in the storyline that I was like, okay. And I thought that overall, the story of the movie, like, was used to just, like, fill in plots throughout the MCU that had not been, like, filled up until the point where it was released. You know, like, it just felt like a filler story. Like Fury's eye and, like, the cat thing. Like, it just felt like it was all used to, like, fill in previous plot holes to me. So I gave the story and the stakes a 2 out of 5. Character arcs, I think it was pretty iconic that Coulson and Fury were in there. I gave that a 3 out of 5. Sound and score, I didn't have as much of an issue with. I think that, like, I think it picked up for me, like, when No Doubt's I'm Just a Girl was like on in the battle scene. I think that was fun.
That was good.
And like I think that was well done. I think it added to the movie. I think it was fun. Iconic moments, I gave a 1 out of 5. And then rewatchability, I also gave a 1 out of 5 because I feel like it was lacking in both. You know, like I feel like since I've seen it once now, I would never have to go rewatch it. And iconic moments, I didn't think that there was anything that like really stuck with me. So that's it for my thoughts.
I think you have an interesting perspective seeing it for the first time and trying to grade the rewatchability. Because I think I think we talked about it in the first episode, but this was the first MCU movie I watched on like premiere night on Thursday night, and I fell asleep during it. So I obviously seeing it the first time, I feel like everybody kind of feels like, I don't need to see this again anytime soon. Great insight. One question I have before we move on to the next person. Did anybody feel like, and this may be more like the beginning of the movie, when the Kree's kind of getting ready for their first attack, did anybody feel like this had like a weird like Tron feel to it? Whether it was in like the sound effects of the weapons or even how the weapons lit up, because there was a lot of like blue like accent lights, and even some of the outfits were kind of had blue accents. That was just a weird takeaway that I got, especially after picking up the Indiana Jones comparison to Captain America. I was just trying to find another comparison to this movie.
I would say the first like planet that they go to, when it's all foggy and you only see like the few rocks behind them, that felt like Alien, kind of like that planet. And then obviously we kind of got like the Terminator thing with her stealing the bike and the jacket. That was because I think that stuff is just to make you think about the time period. Yeah, man, by referencing those movies, which I think was all right. They didn't steal whole scenes, but
yeah, and I think
there's a few nods like that.
What's kind of hard it may be just for me, but it seems like this conversation's kind of hard to be had because, we've all watched the movie, but like, it's, there's a lot of alien aspects to it. So there's all these weird names. So like, I can't recall what the name of something was, or I can't, pick something up and then I just kind of forget about it, So that's just something I'm taking away even right now, just having this conversation. Like, I can't remember, a lot of the characters' names. I can't remember, some of the alien species. So
No,
I think the main scroll's name, isn't it like Talos or something like that?
Talos.
Mm-hmm. Talos. Does he come back?
Krennic.
Jude.
No.
Oh
He
man.
does come back.
Oh.
What movie?
Rogue One.
Hey, what movie does he come back in?
I'm not going to spoil that.
Okay.
Or season 2, premiering tomorrow.
Is it one I haven't seen, Brian?
I believe so.
Secret Invasion?
Before that. All right.
Whoa!
Who is next?
Neither me or Brody. Brody, you want to go?
What did you rate it?
All right, I'll go. I gave it an 11 out of 25. Honestly, the first half is pretty good. Like, I like that they can they're building up the plot twists, and obviously that like Virus's commander is kind of sketchy. And then I like her getting her memories back through the flashbacks. And then I really like once it gets to Earth and it switches away from the planet they're at. And then like about halfway through, I just kind of like got super just barren. Like after they met Maria Rambeau. Well, and first of all, I don't know how good of a job they did because it's hard for them to introduce a character like Maria Rambeau like halfway through the movie and develop that character. I didn't think they did a bad job, so I'll give my character arc 3 out of 5. I liked the Fury character arc; thought it was hilarious during the movie. Bree was not bad either. She kind of is developing as she gets her memories back. But like just the latter half of the movie, like after the aliens are in Maria's, or after all the um scroll art in Maria's house, it
Mhm.
just kind of gets like hard for me to like stay like hooked in. I thought it kind of fell off. And then also for me, it was like, all right, there's been this war between the Skrull and the Kree for what, like thousands of years or something.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, like it just one day they're like, oh, like it was just a misunderstanding. Like actually, like let's just team up and like she's like, let me help you guys like save your species. And the Kree just like immediately shift. And to me, it was just some BS. It was like, all right, without getting very political, it was like it reminded me of an Israel versus Palestine conflict solved in just a snap. And I was like, that just doesn't seem plausible.
It's not very realistic.
Right. So that was something that kind of bothered me a little bit. So, but I gave the story a 2 out of 5. Um, I gave the sound and music 2 out of 5. I did like the kind of rock and roll playlist they had going on during the fight scene and when she was on the motorcycle. For iconic moments, I gave it a 2.5 out of 5.
What was iconic for you? That's like I just couldn't pick one out.
I like there's certain lines that I thought were funny, like when they asked if they in Virus's team, one of them asked, "Have you ever been to Earth C-53?" And she's like, "One time." Like it's a real that
Oh
had
yeah.
me chuckle a little bit. And then obviously Fury like losing his eye, I thought was pretty iconic. Hold on, I got 10 pages of notes, so let me find I wrote down some other things.
10
Oh,
pages.
oh, 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 hey, Ron, I have 10. Well, 5 for each movie.
Okay.
Um, why in Stanley's cameo is he talking about the true believer? Did you pick up on that in the bus? He's talking about like some true believer line that he's
I think that's
reciting.
just something that he always said. It's like
Yeah.
Excelsior. Like it's like if
Okay.
I just remember from the Lego Marvel games, if you got like all the stuff, there'd be True Believer as like a reference to him talking about it. Because I
Yeah.
think it was just a
I
talking
didn't
point
dig
he
deep
used a
into
lot.
it.
But it did sound like they had like one clip of him. Because wasn't this the last
Yeah, so did you
cameo?
guys see at the beginning of the movie it said thank you, Stan?
Yes, that montage for Stanley.
So in between when the movie was shot and when it released, he did pass away. It was actually like, if I remember correctly, like quite close to when it released. Um, so I mean, it is sad, but you know, it's not like we're obviously just starting this, so we're going to see him quite a few more times. Um, but yeah, I thought what they did for him was very nice. And now, I mean, we're so far into the MCU now, like we're going to get quite a few projects in. And now it's only like half the projects he's in these days, you know, just because time is
Mhm.
starting to evolve. Um, did you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, we can get my finishing thoughts. I thought there was just some cheesy little moments, like Monica's daughter, or no, no, sorry, Monica, Maria's
Mm-hmm.
daughter.
Mm-hmm.
When Maria's like debating going on the mission or whatever, and she's like she wants to stay back, and then Monica's like she's like I don't know, like 6 years old, right? She's like, I just want you to think of the example that you're setting for your little daughter, and I was just like, dude, no 8-year-old is ever gonna say that. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
But
I just didn't
um,
even feel like I cared for the character during that point. It's like, okay, go for it. I mean, if I don't see you again, who cares? You know, there's like what
right.
you're saying, they didn't build up that character very well.
Yeah, like
Yeah. Go ahead, Sylvia.
no, I was gonna say like there was nothing tying us to her at that point. It was like if she
Mhm.
dies, she dies. Oh well, poor Monica.
Yeah. Or
I
Maria,
think I think that was a problem with a lot of
The
movies,
daughter's
though.
name was Monica.
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 She wouldn't die.
That's what I'm saying. But poor Monica, because she would B7 and not have a mom. That's what I was saying.
Damn, no, damn. That's sad. I thought you were talking about Maria dying. I mean, I don't care about Maria dying.
No,
but I
we
would be
didn't.
sad
We,
for
we already
Maria.
established that we didn't care about Maria dying because they didn't develop her character well enough.
Okay, for sure.
All right, Brody, what's your thoughts?
I feel like a lot of the movie just had them telling you, like,
Yeah.
to care about. Like, Jude Law's character, whatever his name was, I never felt like he
It
was
was
bad. It was
Hey,
what?
ChatGPT, look it up real quick.
no. His name was Jan Rog. I remember that because I love Jude Law.
I'm probably just gonna keep calling him Jude Law. Because that's what I think of when I think of him.
Jude Law.
Because
Rewatchability.
I just saw
sorry,
a
Brady.
skeleton group.
I thought you were done. Sorry, keep going.
Wait, were you running through your list?
No.
Okay.
I just thought, like, keep going.
But I feel like they just like tell you to care about it. Like when they had like the final fight with Jude Law at the end, I was like, I didn't really get why it was Jude Law. Like I understand because they switched the villain like halfway through. Like I didn't feel like he was a big threat at all. Like he's not even the leader on his planet where he's from. You know what I mean? Like he was just like this group leader, and he just kept some secrets. So I didn't feel like he was the big bad. And I understand they don't really make it seem like that. He just gets like pushed against the rock. But like it's the same with like the best friend thing because that's the problem with doing like a story of like the character doesn't know what happened. It's like if you just like are telling the character that, you're also telling the audience that, and they're not like developing that naturally. Like it's not like we just watched First Avenger. First Avenger, you just watch scenes with Bucky and Cap. It doesn't just tell you that Bucky was his friend during the war. You know what I mean? And you get like one scene. Like you see it in timeline order. And I understand you couldn't do that because like her forgetting her memory. But anyway, I'll let Andreas talk and then I'll say my score.
I gave rewatchability 1.5 out of 5. I mean, I did kind of forget like a lot of what happened because it's been a while, but I don't really enjoy rewatching it that much. It all comes back and it's kind of like, yeah, this movie's kind of bland. And I'll let you go ahead, Brody. That's my finishing thoughts.
All right. Overall, I did lower than all you guys. I did 6.5.
Oh wow.
Damn.
Brutal.
I really did not have a good time with this movie. And I was really thinking that it was going to be better. Because I was like, I remember watching it the first time. I was like confused during the beginning. And then the rest of the movie, I was like, Sam Jackson's a funny guy. You know what I mean? That's like all I really remembered from the movie. And so, I don't know. For story and stakes, I put 1. Because, like, at no point did it seem like it's the same as the problems with Secret Invasion. I think this problem continues throughout it. It doesn't feel like actually I can't say that because I don't want to spoil it. But it just doesn't feel like there's a real problem with Earth. Like there's nothing that happens on Earth from these guys being there that makes you think, oh, this is a serious problem. There's serious stuff going on. And it just seemed weird because you would think that they could have something larger happen and then be like, S.H.I.E.L.D. covered it up because they're kind of shady with the government and stuff. And it's like you could have had that kind of cover-up thing because we already know S.H.I.E.L.D. does stuff like that. But like that's the problem with doing a prequel like this is like you really have to make people like care about the stakes at this point, even though you're in the past. And I think it just didn't really do that. And I think we kind of knew once the Skrulls? The Skrulls and the Kree were getting involved. We were like, oh, this is going to go towards Secret Invasion at some point. So it almost just felt like it was like a setup for future projects, and there wasn't much payoff in this one. But I don't know. Character arcs, I put 1. I would maybe give it a 1.5. Like, there's literally a moment in this movie where she goes, I don't know who I am. And then everyone around her tells her who she is. And then she's like, oh, okay. All right. I'll wear blue and red now. You know what I mean? Like, that's literally a moment. She goes, I don't know who I am. And she's like, you're my best friend. And, like, instead of her being like, I don't know that. I don't remember that portion of my life, like, at all. Instead, she's like, okay, I'm Carol Danvers now. And it's like, that's great and all, but I feel like the way that they got to that point wasn't great. You know what I mean? I think that would be a little more complex than they were displaying it as. I feel like Fury, like the thing with this is a big talked about thing at the time, because when he talked about his eye patch, he was always like, oh, that's where I learned not to trust people. And I feel like we never got to that point where it's like, oh, Fury really doesn't trust the people he's working with. I thought it was going to be kind of like, oh, he doesn't trust like anyone around him. You know what I mean? And then instead we only get like a few fake outs and switch outs. So I feel like the end of the movie, it kind of left Fury a little less. He didn't have to be really, really ragged, but I understand it's a joke now, because obviously he lost the eye to the cat.
The flirt.
That's not a cat. You know what I mean? But I feel like they didn't get his character to a point that was interesting over the course of the movie. He was funny the whole movie. Him and Carol Danvers had an interesting growth between their like talking, but I don't know. And I think probably the most interesting was like the side character moment with Coulson. Coulson having his little like, oh, he trusts Fury, and at the end asking him the questions. That felt so in character for him, and as a good side character. And that's what I was talking about with side characters in First Avenger. Like, I feel like in this movie, Coulson did exactly what he needed to do. He had a little like show of his character with his trust in Fury, and he served his purpose. He didn't need to be in it any more, any less. And I feel like a lot of other characters in this movie needed that, like characters on her team in the beginning that like we don't know the names of, we didn't end up caring about. You know what I mean? Problems like that. Music, I put 2. I had it at 1, and then I agreed with the just a girl moment was like definitely the most iconic music moment. I think the songs that they chose that already existed were good. I think the score was okay, but I can't hum the theme, and there wasn't a moment where the music played and it was like super triumphant. You know what I mean? Like, we're really emotional. Like, it was kind of like, it sounded okay, but it really didn't move. And I don't know if that's because of the scene it was playing over or because of the music, but either way, it just ended up not connecting for me. Iconic moments, I put 1. The only one I could think of is the destroying the ship at the end. I think that was like, oh my gosh, she can just destroy a ship, and that's what I remembered from the movie. Like, rewatching it, it wasn't as cool as I remember, but it was like, that is what I remember, is her like destroying the ship, and obviously that becomes like a thing she can do. But I think
crucial point later on in the MCU.
And that's the only iconic like visually moment that I can think of, and obviously like the glowing effect for her. But the only other like funny moment that I could think that's like added that you kind of remember or like reference is the Mr. Postman scene is like amazing, where they're doing the dishes and stuff. Like, that's amazing with Sam Jackson. But I don't know, iconic moments, like there's none that really, really stand out. Rewatchability, I put 1.5, the same as Andreas, because I think with the Marvels and Monica Rambeau and all that, that's kind of the most interesting part of the movie now. And I think as the advantages of having like a kid actor, and it kind of just makes you care about the character more than some of these other people they're telling you to care about. But I think it's kind of essential to watch the other stuff, that you have to watch this one. But I don't know, I rated this movie pretty low.
Yeah. I think
slow watch.
to go, I really like what you said about the score, and you're saying that you can't hum it. I often think about scores, specifically for Marvel movies. I envision myself, obviously this is brought to you by a travel agency, so I'm thinking when I'm in Avengers Campus, if I heard that song, would I be able to pinpoint what movie it's coming from?
True.
And most scores that I do like, I can. Like, if I hear the Ant-Man theme, I can identify that quickly. If I hear even the Captain America theme, which I would say is, on the lower end of scores, like, I can still pin that out.
Because usually they have usually they have like a sound. Like, even if they don't have a theme, you can hum. If you hear like the plucking of strings of like the Spider-Man, like when he's like sneaking around the school campus, like it has a specific sound. So, and I'm surprised with how Top Gun this movie references that it's not like more electric guitar 80s influence. You know what I mean? Like kind of how they did Captain America, more 40s influence. So So I don't know. It kind of felt like a missed opportunity. But you can continue.
Yeah.
I was just talking about that.
Well, I also think we've talked about this before, not on the podcast, how like Marvel music is just kind of different compared to all the Disney like Star Wars. You can actually name like the soundtracks, Duel of Fates and the Ewok Celebration. Like you can actually know the name of it, and Marvel I feel like is completely different. Like besides like the Avengers main theme, like I couldn't tell you any other ones, but I just think Marvel's different when it comes to music.
And that's just like the natural problem of having different composers each movie. I mean, each composer for the Iron Man movies, I think it changes every single time. So whenever he shows up, you can't be like, oh, like you don't feel the payoff of like that or the theme changing or expanding or anything. And that's just a scheduling conflict that you're going to have when you're running something for however many years this has been going on.
And you have so many projects coming out every year. Star Wars,
because you can't just tell them.
They get the luxury of having John Williams because they're only having a movie come out every 3 years during like an 8-year stint.
Exactly.
And, you know, they go, what was that, 20 years from when the original trilogy came out and the prequels to the sequels. Like, you know, there's 20 years apart, and John Williams is able to do all of them.
But yeah, with how many movies there is here, though, like it would just waste time to be like, don't do your music and try to recreate this person's music. It wouldn't be worth it.
I think for Star Wars, like it works, right? But we talked about it earlier too. Like Marvel, I like watching different genre movies. I like listening to different genres of music that fit the theme of, you know, the story that they're telling. So I think that's interesting. Does anybody have any other thoughts on Captain Marvel? I'm gonna refrain from the end credit scene because I directed Austin to not watch it, and he ended up watching.
I watched it, yeah, but I think the one thing I do have some nitpickiness with this is the Tesseract. It just seems like right now it just gives everyone the ability to do whatever they want. It's the best thing in the entire world. I'm pretty sure she's the most powerful Avenger, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's just like, I mean, why didn't she just, like, even with, like, I know she doesn't know Ronan's going to do what Ronan's going to do later, but, like, why didn't she just fly through all those ships if she can? Didn't take anything out of her. But, you know, that's just something.
I don't think she really knows how powerful she is yet. She just unlocked her powers.
Yes, that is true.
I mean, and that was a big point of emphasis in the beginning of the movie. It was like, you know, you're having that Karate Kid-esque scene where, you know, she's like not understanding what she's capable of. Sophia, what were you going to say?
Well, to me, it wasn't also super clear that that's how she got her powers. How did she even get her power? I mean, she blasted the engine, and the energy from the light engine was just like inserted into her body. Was it from the Tesseract?
Yeah, the engine power came from the Tesseract.
Okay. I guess that makes sense.
So everybody should start shooting at the Tesseract.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Like, it seems like not very situational.
Yeah.
So, since Austin is the clueless one here, I have a question for you. What movie do you think the Tesseract's coming back into next? Like, soon?
Soon? I know it's the Avengers. That's the only next one, right? It's the Avengers.
We still have several more movies before the Avengers.
Just the Avengers. That's the only one I know for sure it comes back in. And I guess Endgame.
All right.
I mean, you kind of need that one for Endgame.
Well, as we go through the next couple movies, we'll talk about it. Does anybody have any last thoughts on Captain Marvel before we move on to Iron Man?
Hey, Austin, so what are your thoughts on the end credit scene?
Well, I can't really, I assume that it's after the snap, right?
Okay.
And I'm just guessing she got snapped.
Before you finish your thought, nobody give their thoughts after what he says. But go ahead, Austin.
Yeah.
I'm guessing she got snapped away. That's all I'm guessing is like that's why the power went off is because she got snapped out.
Okay.
Who are you referring to? Was she? I'm not.
Captain Marvel. I'm assuming that after the snap, they're like, "Oh, what happened? Everyone's gone," and then they're like, "Well, we have this thing that has this logo on it that looks like a superhero. Let's dial up our little pager, and it's broken, so they're like, oh well, we got to keep trying, but I'm assuming that she just got snapped away.
And so you turned off like the end credit scene, like when you got to that point.
As soon as I saw like Captain America say like, oh, just keep trying, I just turned it off. I was like, I don't want to know anymore.
Oh my God, dude! All right.
All right. Well, it sounds like we've wrapped up Captain Marvel. I mean, it's just meh. I mean, it sounds like we all touched on it. Like, there's some really good aspects to this movie, specifically character-wise, but I think just poorly written. I don't really think it's on the actors. So, yeah. Now,
wait, hold on. One funny thing in that end credit scene is they never call it a pager. Like, they're just like, what is this thing? What does this thing do? Like, they just don't know what it is. Like, you'd think one of them would be like, oh, that looks like a pager. You know what I mean? They're just like, what is this thing? What does it do? It's like hooked up to this machine. And I was like, are they going to call it like a pager? Like, surely someone here knows that that's what that is. You know what I mean? Maybe someone here that works with science or some form of technology would know what a pager is. They're just like, what is this thing? And it was just so funny to me. Like, I was like, they got to say it once.
Yeah.
I was like, out of all the artifacts, they're like, this is what they're dumbfounded by.
All right. So we move on to Iron Man, the very first movie in the MCU. You know, this was groundbreaking for a lot of reasons. A project or a comic book character going into this, you know, not really known. Marvel took a huge gamble on not only writing this movie, but casting Robert Downey Jr. As you may or may not know, Robert Downey Jr. was in, you know, some pretty bad legal trouble leading up to this. And so this really revamped his career and, as we now know, really saved Marvel. Because I'll give a little backstory on why Marvel decided to make Iron Man. When Marvel in the 90s and even early 2000s, Brendan may even be able to give a little bit better backstory to this, but they got into quite a bit of financial trouble. So what Marvel did was they started selling off more of their popular characters. They sold Spider-Man and all of his villains to Sony. They sold the Incredible Hulk to Universal. They ended up selling Namor, who, you know, we don't really see him until much later in the MCU, but he was still a very popular character in the comics. They sold, you know, the X-Men to 21st Century Fox, right? Wolverine, Hulk, Spider-Man. I mean, those were the main comic book characters for really since the comics were written in the 60s. So this was a huge gamble for Marvel to make a movie about Iron Man, who was unknown. So off with that, I gave this movie 17.
Wait, Ethan.
Yes.
Do you want me to go through my brief summary?
That would be lovely. We're back with Sophia's sophisticated summary.
Okay.
Hey, Sophia.
Yes, sir.
Are you gonna chat GBT it again though?
Can you? Do you
From
want
the
me to?
top.
I will. Next time, I will have a handwritten, hand-prepared Sophia summary. But because this is an on-the-fly thing, I did inquire the assistance of ChatGPT for a summary, for a brief summary. But this will be the only episode that will happen for. Are you happy, Andreas?
Pleased.
And then
Okay.
Tony's last name's Stark, not Stank. I don't know if they'll put that in there.
All right, guys. Thank you. Anyway, Iron Man, which was released in 2008, follows Tony Stark, a billionaire genius and weapons manufacturer who is captured by terrorists while demonstrating a missile in Afghanistan. During captivity, he builds a powerful suit of armor to escape. Traumatized by the experience, he shuts down his weapons division and refines the suit to become Iron Man, a high-tech superhero. As he uncovers corruption within his own company, he battles his former mentor, Obadiah Stane, who tries to use Stark's technology for evil. By the end, Tony publicly reveals his identity as Iron Man, making the start of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I think that's a solid description. Sophia, we'll have you start with your score since you're giving a rundown.
Since I'm giving my rundown, let me pull up my notes really quick. Okay, I gave this movie a solid 19 out of 25. I mean, I thought I was going to like it a little bit more, the storyline. I think that probably it's been like since maybe 2010 since I've last seen this movie, which is crazy. But anyway, the story and the stakes, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think that there was like a really, really strong start to the movie with, being captured and escaping and making his friend with Yinsen and Yinsen's obviously tragic death. But I thought that was a super strong story. R.I.P. Yinsen. But then I feel like the movie, when he is, first developing the suit, and he's going to this gala, to all like the gala situation, and him and Pepper are kind of like starting off their romance, and we know Obadiah's evil, but like we don't know why and how. I feel like that part of the movie towards the middle was sort of a lull that kind of lost my attention. I'm not gonna lie, for a minute. And then obviously
I would agree with you. I don't think you're
Yeah.
the only one that feels that way.
and then it picks up towards the end, and obviously becomes legendary, and like the suit becomes so iconic, and but honestly, I also didn't love how the technology, I guess, with the suit developed, like first of all so quickly, but then also it had so many like faults at the beginning, but then all of a sudden it was perfect, and like able to fly and able to fight this like giant robot that. Okay, anyway, character arcs, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I think that Iron Man's character is iconic, Pepper Potts' character is iconic, Happy's character was iconic, so I gave that a 3 out of 5 because there was 3 characters that stuck out. Sound and score, it wasn't really memorable. I gave it a 1 out of 5. I didn't think that it was great.
Absurd.
What?
Well, I mean, it wasn't. What do you remember?
I don't know the names of the songs, but like it's all like rock songs. Like
so iconic, and the movie starting with Back in Black. I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
The one thing I do have about the sound, not really like the actual music, but they reused the exact same sound bite of the metal hitting every 5 seconds. I just like, can you please something different? Like whenever he hits a wall, it's the same noise. And that, like, it works perfectly when he's building the suit. But man, can we go away from something else?
Well, I think sorry. I think that's interesting. Like, I've seen a documentary on how they made the first Iron Man, because I think the CGI in this movie holds up incredibly well. Like, incredibly well. They did a lot of attention to detail, that they were going to make sure that the reflections were, correctly balanced, and it looked truly metallic, because besides, like, if they had a close-up helmet shot, like, it was all CGI. And I think that's something to be said too for like a lot of like mid 2000s CGI, especially like Pirates of the Caribbean. Davy Jones, like, that CGI holds up really well. But I think as you guys continue to watch Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3, you'll see that, sound bites, are a lot more variable. They're not using the same one. And I think it also comes down to budget, because they didn't have a ton of money to work with. I'm not sure how much this movie cost to make, but they obviously had a much higher budget than more Iron Man movies that came out, and eventually the Avenger movies.
But they did have a practical suit, though,
Mhm.
that Stan Winston Studios did. And I think that's also having a reference for the CGI, which they started doing less and less. But they say that he stopped wearing it as much as the movie went on.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, which makes sense, because obviously that last fight scene, the suit's getting damaged, and you need a lot more movement out of him. But I think especially during the tests and stuff, you can see that like the limited movement helps it a lot to where with the believability and making characters strong but still have limitations of the suit locking up and stuff like that. But the practical stuff was all Stan Winston.
Were you finishing your thoughts, Phil?
Oh, yeah. I lied. My sound score was a 3 out of 5. I was looking at my Marvel, or I was looking at a different score. Anyway, the sound score was a 3 out of 5. I thought it was like fine, decent, but again, Austin, it's funny that you pointed out the same metal clanking sound. Did any of you guys watch the movie Real Steel?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that movie was like my brother's like hyperfixation movie, and it's the same like metal clanking sound too. And so I was like, I could not get it out of my head. I was like, oh my gosh, they need new sound bites from 2008. I guess they used all the same sound bites. But anyway, moving on with my score, I thought their iconic moments were like a 5 out of 5. I think that I like forever remember like seeing Tony Stark's like home, like his billionaire home, and like seeing Pepper for the first time. I don't know. I just think that the suit too, like the flying scenes were so iconic. Like his first flying scene where he flies up and he's gonna like test the limits of the suit, and he freezes over and he has to fix the frosting. Like I remember that from when I was like 10 years old, and like those were iconic moments that I'm thinking back to, and like, okay, this is just a classic. Like iconic moments, I gave a 5 out of 5. And then rewatchability, I gave a 4 out of 5. I think that like now that I've rewatched it, I'm like, okay, I'll probably go back and rewatch it again, like in the future. I mean, not tomorrow, but definitely like I wouldn't be mad about like seeing it again, you know? So anyway, that brings me to a 19 out of 25. Also, there was like some fun Easter eggs too that I liked. And I don't know if you want me to point them out now or later.
Let's go through the scores and then we can point out some other notes that we stuck out. I can go next. So for total score, I gave a 17 out of 25, about 1 point less than I gave Captain America: The First Avenger.
Whoa.
Story, I gave a 3 out of 5. I think 3 out of 5 for me is fair for it, just because I think it's good to like good motivation for why Tony Stark created a suit in the first place. But I'd be interested to see how you guys see Tony Stark develop in other movies, because I don't know how familiar you guys are with Tony Stark in the comics, but he's like, I think this is the perfect representation of Tony Stark in from the comics, because Tony Stark in the comics he loves gambling, he loves drinking. Like in the comics, Tony Stark is like a severe alcoholic, and that's a big part of his story. In the movies, they don't play on that as much, which I understand why, you know, but he has the same like ego and cockiness to him as the movies go on, but they don't play off the same, you know, gambling, playboy, philanthropist thing like they mention in the Avengers, as we'll see, because you only just see it in this movie.
I wish they did, though. That would be awesome.
I mean, I don't know.
That'd be really enjoyable.
Characters, I gave a 3.5 out of 5. I would give this higher, but in retrospect, it really bugs me when characters get recasted. So when Rhodey's recasted later on, Austin, I don't know if you knew that.
I was gonna ask if he gets recasted because I don't remember this one. It's the skinnier guy, right? He's more famous. I like this Rhodey way better.
Yeah,
Whole thing. Where's Don Cheadle?
I disagree. I did not care for his interpretation of Rhodey. I think that's what bugs me the most about the characters. I like Obadiah Stane. I mean, he's got the greatest iconic line of all time about building it in a cave. So,
yeah.
Sound and score, I talked about it earlier. I gave it a 4 out of 5. Oh, where are you?
I love that line. And then the guy's response, he's like, well, I'm not Tony Stark.
Yeah, it's just a great piece of dialogue. Sound and score, it's really hard to beat. I mean, there's going to be other movies that I do enjoy the sound and score more, but for them to have AC/DC and then they play off the mid-2000s rock theme playing over and over again. And like I was saying, if I was walking Avengers Campus and I heard that theme, I know exactly that's Iron Man's theme, you know.
Yeah.
I would give it a little bit higher, just because, like what Austin was saying about the metal clanking. Um, I think the repulsor sound those super iconic too. So overall iconic moments, I gave a 4.5 out of 5. Just for making the first Mark One suit in the cave, Obadiah Stane's lines. I am Iron Man. I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah.
Rewatchability though, this is probably be controversial. So just to remind you guys, I gave Captain Marvel a 3. I gave Iron Man a 2.
What?
There was just that low point in the movie. I was just like seemed super disinterested.
What point?
It was really just after he had been captured to when he got out. Even like him first getting out with the flamethrower thing, it just seemed kind of cheesy. I mean, that's the whole point is the rewatchability. Like I've seen that before,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the climax of this movie is great. I think the final fight is great. I think there's some great like foreshadowing that happens in this movie, especially with the final fight. But overall, yeah, I gave it a 17 out of 25. One thing I do want to point out. I thought the most baller move of all time. I don't know if you guys noticed this. Is he's doing this for like half a second. Obadiah Stane, about 45, maybe 30, 45 minutes in, he's riding a Segway with a cigar in mouth. It doesn't get more baller than that. I just thought that was a sick combo to be doing, because who rides Segways with a cigar in their mouth? So, yep, those are my thoughts.
I gave this a 23 out of 25. I loved it. The only part that I knocked down was the sound and score, because I couldn't listen to that one more time. And then the rewatchability, I knocked down 1 point just because I can't just rewatch this movie. Like, I don't know. There's just something about it where, again, you just kind of zone out for a little while. But the few questions I do have about this, the one thing I don't understand to this day is he has all this tech, he can do all this stuff, but you can't take out these little metal things that's floating in his body. Really? I mean, he made this little thing in a cave, but you can't take out these little metal bits in his body. I don't get that. And also, where did these wires go? He's a skinny guy, and this wire might be longer than him. That's in his chest. So that's a little funny. And are Tony and Pepper, are they fondooing? I don't understand. Are they?
I thought that was his sister. Hold on.
This is not Star Wars. It was interesting to see Pepper and Tony's interactions at the beginning, because at first it seemed like even the actors, Gwyneth Paltrow and Robert Downey Jr., didn't have good chemistry. But it actually kind of seemed like it was more of script writing. Like it was actually played out really well. Like it is more just a work relationship, and then you see it build into, a more personal one. And I like seeing it develop over the next couple movies. To your point, Austin, have you seen Iron Man 2?
Yeah, I don't really remember. It's been a while.
Okay, well, I think that might answer your question a little bit.
How much longer after Captain Marvel is this movie? Because Agent Coulson, he's leading a team now.
Okay, so Captain Marvel is set in 1995, and Iron Man is set in 2008 when the movie released.
Oh, okay, all right, that makes sense then.
Mm-hmm. Ready?
You're muted, Brody.
Oh no,
there you go.
Okay, so story and stakes, I did 4. It was out of 5 because it did something that was more important than making it the world's gonna end. Is it made it really prevalent and good for the main character, which I think matters more so. I don't know how much I'm curving this movie since I watched it after Captain Marvel. So I think I was really looking for character stuff. But now it's at a 4 because you do have to suspend your disbelief in moments, when they're building a leg and they're like coming and checking on him in the cave, and they're like, that sure looks like a leg. Like, you would think that they would be like, that kind of looks like a suit of armor for a dude, and not the weapon that we're trying to have you make. Like, they have cameras like looking in there, and they're like, kind of looks like he's trying that glove on. You know what I mean? Kind of looks like a suit. That doesn't look like what we're having him make. And like, they're just fine with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it made it like, it's something where it's something where it can happen quick because of how like devastating the realization would be. Like the second that bomb drops, like just since we were talking about Captain Marvel, is like that scene that I was talking about where they tell her like pretty much who she is and she changes into that person again. It's not that something can't happen that quick in a story. It's like how it happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can we mute Sophia?
Hey, this
I don't know what.
I'm
What is going on?
crunching on
Sophia, what are you
I'm
doing?
confused.
She's building her suit of armor right now.
All
All right, that
we
works.
we lost Sophia, but Brody, continue your thoughts.
But anyway, like I said, it's not that something can't happen that quick in a story. It's really how you do it. And I think like having a businessman see the consequences like straight up, you can have that switch be that quick. And the story does that really good. Especially because like it's really such a quick scene of him being in the car that you get like an entire view of his personality and who he is before that bomb drops, which is done really, really well. Character arcs, I put it at 5. Again, this might be because of the first movie, but you get those moments with all the side characters. It's a really good cast. It feels like First Avenger in that way. Hogan, you like, you know what I mean? Gwyneth Paltrow's great. Robert Downey Jr., like, they're all good, and especially Obadiah Stane, and especially when you're thinking about most of this movie was improvised lines. Like,
Really?
most of it. Yeah, the script was, like, all over the place. All over the place. So usually it's like, I don't know why I'm blanking on Obadiah Stane, actor, because I love him. He's great. But he's in the Gifford too. I'm blanking on his name. But anyway, most of it is rewriting lines that were written. So like there was a basic outline, but it didn't read well. So I think that really helps. This movie has really natural dialogue with the characters. But like, yeah, just the little moments like Tony getting back in the car and saying he wants a cheeseburger, and Hogan being there. Like really great character moments. And especially one of those scenes that's really character focused and also like pivotal and memorable is the fixing of the heart in the workspace, because they don't put any music over it. You know what I mean? It's literally just them and the intensity of the situation. The practical effect looks amazing with the hole in his chest. And that's the moment that like you're completely into the relationship between these two characters, and it raises the stakes. Because that's another thing. You can do something like that quickly in a story just by having it really written well. And that scene was like really amazing. Especially since he's been working alone. Like,
Brody,
work with someone.
who's Hogan that you keep referring?
John Favreau.
Happy Hogan.
Oh, Happy.
Happy.
Oh, I didn't know that was his last name. Okay, yeah.
And then sound and score, I did 3. Probably, I could stretch it to a 4. You know what I mean? Like, because the soundtrack's amazing. It kind of doesn't have the modern problem, which is after Guardians of the Galaxy. This is the same with the humor problem, where everything was like, oh, Guardians of the Galaxy was really great. Let's just make everything Guardians of the Galaxy. And that's where Thor started listening to music that wasn't really Thor music. You know what I mean? Just because those soundtracks did well. Where this, it's like, oh, this is something he listens to. Most of the times in the movie, he turns on the song that he's listening to while he's working, and it completely fits the tone of the character. Where that's a problem where over time you lose the humor and the music style. And the score, it's not really memorable. They changed the Iron Man theme so much. That's a big problem in the MCU. But if you hear it, it has a sound with that guitar and stuff, and you go like, okay, this is Iron Man. Like you were talking about. If you heard it in Avengers Campus, that's Iron Man. Iconic moments, I put 5. I mean, the first suit test, him saying Ferrari red, him putting the gloves on, him talking with the interviewers in the beginning, like pretty much every scene you can remember, like at least a frame of it, of like what it looked like and the lighting and like what it was kind of like. I think him coming out with the flamethrower, whether you like that scene or not, I think that's also a problem is like whenever movies get to desert scenes, they feel tiring just because they feel like it's like a really warm out scene, and like they are kind of like dragged out like that. But like the freezing of the suit, like all these scenes are just so iconic, and their placement in the story is so good. Rewatchability, I put 3 because it's not one that I would turn on, but I think that's also because it's been around since the beginning. So like we've already all seen it like several times.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it right in the middle because if it's on TV, I would be fine watching it. I would be fine not watching it. You know what I mean? It's either way.
Oh, no.
All right, I think we're gonna have to remove Sophia from this call because her audio is just really jacked up.
Andreas, do you want to go?
Yeah. So,
Can't you just mute her?
yeah, Brian.
Sorry, I'm working on removing Sophia right now.
Okay,
No, until she fixes it.
so I gave this movie 22 out of 25. I forgot how much I loved it. It was just right from the get-go. His humor is just like his sarcasm and his comments, dude, they're so funny. It had me dying. And then like especially when he was like getting interviewed by that Brown reporter, I just knew. I was like, oh yeah, he's bagging this.
Yeah.
And then like I just love that. And then Pepper coming back um oh, I'm just taking out the trash line. I was like,
Oh, that was
damn,
good.
Pepper.
That was
Yeah. So for story, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I really loved the 3 months that he was in the cave and building the suit, and like he's kind of like hopeless, and he's kind of just like in shock, and then Jensen is like, I have the quote, I think, where he was like, this is gonna be a really important week for you because like Tony's like, I'm just gonna be dead in a week, right? And Jensen's like, so this is an important week. I was like, yeah, like get your shit together, Tony. And then he starts like building everything. I really like when he's directing everyone too. And he like, you could just see like the idea come to his mind. And then he starts directing all of the like 10 ring members, and like everyone is like bringing in stuff. But to Austin's point, I thought that the 10 rings people are a little because like, dude, how could you allow him to build this suit and like not have someone in, like you can at least have someone in the cage on guard at all times. Like they're just really stupid. Sorry, probably shouldn't have said that.
Okay, I'll bleep it out.
Okay. Um, so I gave it a 4 out of 5 for story. Character arcs, I gave it 4.5 out of 5. I really think that Tony had a great character arc. And I like this point. When Jensen tells Tony, he says, Tony Stark, a man who has everything and nothing, when they're talking about family. Just to see where he started out, and then to see like, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but in Endgame, how, that shift of him, especially like with family, like he's come a long way.
Even not as far as Endgame, as we'll see, going into the Avengers. I don't want to spoil much, but there is a lot of development that happens. I mean, Iron Man is, lucky in that case that it gets 2 whole movies before Avengers. So there's a lot of character development that happens with him.
Yeah, true. And like in Iron Man 2 with the little kid.
Yeah, we'll get there. Well, that was Iron Man 3, but we'll get there.
Sorry, 3. Yeah.
It's okay.
And then when Jensen is like about to die, and his last words to Stark are, "Don't waste your life." Like just to see Tony actually like taking this and using it, changing the company, and like actually changing his life was nice because he could have. If like Braun was talking about the comics, saying he's an alcoholic and a gambler, he could have easily. I mean, I'm sure he was fiending for some blackjack and some, vodka cranberries in the cave. He could have easily gone right back to the casino, but then he started, changing his life. For soundtrack, I gave 4 out of 5. Just iconic music. like the others are saying. I can definitely like when they're playing that music, it's just getting me amped up. I'm like, oh yeah, he's in the groove right now. Um, I really liked some of the lines too. Um, like iconic moments, I gave it a 5 out of 5. There's just so many like iconic lines. Like he's just so quick-witted. Like his responses are just so awesome. Like for example, when he's testing for the suit and that little robot that blows fire,
Hmm.
he's like if you blow me or like no,
Can you finish that statement, please?
yeah, he's like if you hose me again when I'm not on fire, I'm donating you to the city college. That was funny. But but then that hose comes back and saves his life when his heart when Obadiah screws him up and he, that hose brings the arc reactor and saves his life. So that was a cool full circle moment.
That's
I
awesome.
also I like the line when um Tony Stark tells Pepper, "I'm not crazy, Pepper. I just finally know what I have to do, and I know in my heart that it is right." I was like, yeah. And then Pepper was about to walk out on him. I was like, "Are you serious? You guys remember that?"
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
When like she doesn't like the direction he's going in. I was like, "Pepper, come on." But she came back. So, rewatchability, 4.5 out of 5. I really like the movie. I could see what you're saying, Brian, about there being some dull points,
Hmm.
but I didn't think that there was anything that left me like uninterested, like Captain Marvel. Like I liked the progression, and I liked seeing him come back to, they're saying like he's bedridden or whatever, writing the media about him, and then he pulls up to the event, and then we find out Obadiah was selling to terrorists. That was like a moment that had me hooked. And even though there wasn't a lot of action at that time, I still really liked how it was going. So overall, 22 out of 25, just solid movie.
Yeah, I think it has a right to be a highly ranked movie, just for when it came out and also like where it holds in the story. It's also kind of hard, we're only 3 movies in right now.
Hmm.
So be interested to kind of revisit, Iron Man as well as Captain Marvel and see, where these characters develop as we go. Um, One thing I wanted to, actually, 2 things I wanted to talk about. One is Howard Stark. Did you guys see the pictures of Howard Stark when they mentioned him briefly in the movie?
It's not the
No.
same guy, is it?
No, and as we see later, there's ends up being 3 different variations of Howard Stark.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So we'll see that later. I didn't realize until watching this movie that there was a different actor portraying Howard Stark, even though he doesn't have any lines. There's pictures of him, but
Yeah.
I just thought that was interesting. Um,
Oh wait, Bron.
yeah.
Since you're talking about different characters, I forgot to mention, I do really like the OG Rhodes.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I just thought when I first they introduced Don Cheadle, I was just like, who the hell is this dude? Like, where's Rhodes? And then, he Don Cheadle, he kind of grows on you because he's a good actor. But dude, I really love that one scene when they're in the private jet and Rhodes is like, I'm not drinking. I'm not
Oh
drinking.
yeah,
And then
no, that's funny.
they cut to
And
them.
then the
Oh,
The
stroke
sake
comes
bombing,
out.
man.
yes.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was awesome. But anyways.
Open question as we're kind of wrapping up our conversation here and looking towards the future. The 10 Rings. What are you guys' thoughts on this group?
Wait, hold up. 10 rings.
That's
That
the
I-
terrorist group.
Okay. That's what they're called. Interesting. I thought they were done with after this movie. I'm not gonna lie.
Well,
They come back.
as you'll see, they come back.
Oh, okay.
I think it was really good. It felt like First Avenger, where it's
Yeah.
like it's prevalent to the situation. They didn't feel like they needed to be the big bad at the end of the movie.
hmm
You know what I mean? Because like I said, Obadiah is more personal for Tony,
Yeah.
so it was better to not have them be the main villains at the end.
Yeah.
And
And
they
I think
can
that
just
kind of
go
takes me
with it.
to Raza. Do you guys know who I'm referring to? I had to look up his name because I don't think
Is that the
one
bald
of my
guy?
favorite- Yeah, he's the bald guy of the Ten Rings.
Oh, okay.
I thought he was pretty cringe. I don't know if you guys thought that. He went and was talking about, how Tony Stark is this weapons dealer or death dealer, and he's like, "No, it's my turn." I just thought that was a very cringe line. It was a very like mustache twirly villain. Just not a fan of that kind of character. Yeah. Do you guys have any more thoughts?
I do.
Go for it, buddy.
Because something with this rewatch is I want to talk about like when we're watching it. So like in the timeline, I think this is really interesting. I think that watching Marvel before Captain Marvel, Captain America and Iron Man went really well together, and they paralleled each other really well, and especially with the flow of Howard Stark and kind of knowing who he was. But something that I was kind of interested is they both have a very, very similar mentor character. And I was thinking, watching in this order, as a First Avenger fan, I would be like, First Avenger did that mentor character way better. But the thing is, I'm so glad that they mirrored it, because having something reoccurring like that is a great way to point out character differences.
Mm-hmm.
And in this movie, you really notice what makes Tony a dynamic character and what makes Steve a stagnant character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Steve is Steve from the beginning. He is who he is. It's just he gets the ability to do what he wants to do. You know what I mean? And obviously he learns to distrust and stuff like that. But for the most part, Steve is Steve. That's his whole character, is how that character deals with the times changing around him. But with this movie, you really notice that Tony is dynamic. So when our mentor character dies in First Avenger, Cap was going to chase after that dude that was leaving the room anyway. You know what I mean? Whether he died or not.
Yeah.
But it is just a further push forward for him. In this movie, the stuff that he's saying fully changes Iron Man's life and Tony's life.
Yeah.
So I think it was a great way. Like, I thought it was going to be like, oh, they're very similar. It's going to feel like it's just run of the mill. But it actually pointed out a really great character difference. And since they get grouped together later, I thought it was great. And I was really thinking that I was going to be like, oh, First Avenger did that way better. But it really caught me off guard how well those two work together.
Yeah, I feel like Captain America, he was always going to be that heroic guy, whether he became, jacked and had superpowers. But
And that's,
like you said,
it's just
Tony Stark,
so well.
like, he was probably either going to just kill himself by drinking or, getting lawsuits, whatever it may be. But like, it truly did change his life trajectory. And Andres had talked about it too. Like, it gave him purpose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Were you
It's kind
saying,
of like
Jason?
the real life RDJ. How he kind
Yeah.
of wanted to like all that.
Yeah, no, I think it's super fascinating to look at because, like, and even when I feel like I see clips of Robert Downey Jr., and I think other people mention this too, like, that is Tony Stark. Like, he is the embodiment of, ego and confidence and just the way he speaks. Like, I don't know if there's a better casting in the MCU.
Wasn't there like who were the other options of getting
Tom
cast?
Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Oh God.
There's like pretty much like everyone for
Uh,
this movie. This movie was
I don't-
all over the place. It could have been anyone.
I don't think Cruz would have been that bad. I mean, he
Yeah,
wouldn't have been
I mean-
as good as RDJ for sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
probably would have been fine.
I don't. It's interesting because Tom Cruise, was such a big actor even at the time, but I don't think the movie would have, been such a box office success, because
Just like a run-of-the-mill action movie.
with Iron Man, it was so unique,
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. Because when
so
I think
different.
about like Mission Impossible, like it doesn't have the same ring as like a RDJ. Like this is like an iconic, Tony Stark. So yeah, he probably might have fallen to just another Cruise character.
Yeah.
And I don't know how well he could pull that facial hair off. I think it was It had to be RDJ, dude.
That was a very 2008 goatee that he had going on in
Right.
that movie.
And it worked so well with the red glasses.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
the one other thing I was going to talk about is just not just how we're watching it in the timeline, but how we're watching it like year-wise. Is next year we are getting a new Jon Favreau movie, which is Mandalorian and Grogu. They were just talking about it this weekend at Star Wars Celebration. So watching this movie, I was really looking at like, oh, how does Jon Favreau do action, flying guy in a suit of armor, you know what I mean? And I was really just looking at that. So I don't know, it got me like way more excited for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie just because that's coming out next year. You know what I mean?
I think
So I
Jon
think it's-
Favreau has to get a lot of credit for what he was able to do. Because Austin, you know he directed the movie, right?
No,
So
I do.
Happy Hogan, the actor.
Yeah, I know who Jon Favreau is. I know who that
Yeah.
guy is.
Only the first one though. He didn't.
But even what he provides to the MCU in the future, because this is by far the last time we see him. Even to this day, he's still in movies. Yeah. Any last thoughts before I give you guys the assignment for next week?
did you guys see the end credit scene about Fury
Oh.
changing?
Arguably the most important end credit scene of all time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
go
go
for it.
ahead, Brian.
No, go ahead.
I thought it was cool. Well, wait, is there two? I can't remember. Or no, it's just Fury changing it to the Avenger Initiative from Captain Marvel,
Yeah.
when he deleted like the whatever
The heading. Yeah.
the Protective Initiative or something. I don't know. I can't remember. But I thought that was cool. That was like oh hell yeah, like here comes the rest of the Avengers gang.
Yeah, and I think to keep speaking for when this movie came out, like that never really had been done before. Where you have like Star Wars, I guess, but that is one singular franchise, right? Where these Marvel movies are at the time were seen as individual movies, and they had never intertwined before. So just to hint at that they were able to do that when they didn't know the movie was going to be a success, I think kind of speaks volumes to how forward thinking they were. Well, so we've now done 3 movies with one shot. Next week, your assignment is going to be Iron Man 2, which is going to be next, and then also doing The Incredible Hulk. Talking about recasting, just a FYI, Edward Norton is The Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner, not Mark Ruffalo. So just be wary of that, and looking forward to having that conversation about Edward Norton being the Incredible Hulk. But that's it, just those two, Iron Man 2 and the Incredible Hulk. Yeah, I think that's it. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Sacred Rewatch. We hope you enjoyed diving back into the timeline with us. New recap episodes are coming out every week on Wednesdays leading up to Avengers Doomsday. Wherever you are in the multiverse, thanks for making the Sacred Rewatch part of your journey. See you guys.